Welcome back to the Hockey Cards Gong Show podcast. It is a beautiful Tuesday afternoon here in the Twin Cities of Minnesota. I am Josh. Troy, summer is over.
Yep, summer's over. Kids went back to school, but it's really nice outside. It's actually supposed to be hot here, of course. So it doesn't feel like the summer's ended just yet, but it was fun getting one kid out of the house. The other one goes back tomorrow.
For those that haven't spent a lot of time here in Minnesota, September might be the best month of the year. Weather-wise, no bugs. It's warm. It gets cool at night, though. So definitely a good time to visit. Then you got pretty soon the leaves will start to turn and it'll get real beautiful. The other thing that is significant is I think at the time this podcast gets released, we'll be just about 30 days from the start of the NHL season.
Nice.
I can't wait.
Nice. Yeah, we were talking today, and I didn't realize it was just, everything's coming up so fast. Like, I kind of forgot we were even since September. So, like, training camps have to be starting here pretty soon, if they haven't already.
Yeah,
I just can't remember.
I'm pretty clueless as far as what's happening in the NHL. I didn't know until today that on the 7th of October, the Sharks and Predators are playing in Prague. News to me.
Yeah, that is interesting. I only know it because you told me it.
Yeah, and then I think on the 11th game start in North America. So, like I said, we're about just 1 month away from the first game. Then a few more days till the season gets kicked off in earnest, let's say. But, dude, I'm so pumped. I can't wait. And as Wild fans, this is the time of year where, as I should say, any Minnesota sports fan, where we're just full of hope. Hope springs eternal.
Hope springs eternal.
Fall. And 2 months from now, we'll be back to our depression. I'm sure the Wild will be in a 12-game pointless streak or something like that. But there's hope for now.
Let's hope.
One more quick thing I want to mention, Troy, before we get rolling is we have done actually quite a bit of work in the last week or so regarding Facebook and did some connecting configurations. I don't know what we did. But anyways, we got it to the point where there will be daily content on Facebook now. So if you weren't following us there already and you use Facebook, you're old like us, then be sure to look us up at Hockey Cards Gong Show and follow us for lots of great sports card information, updates on new episodes, and all good stuff like that.
So do you think you just hit enough buttons to make something magically connect is what happened? Or did you actually have a plan going in?
Yeah, I think it was probably when I kicked my computer that I probably kicked the right button at the same time, and it just all started working. So it was a win, a rare computer W for the Gong Show crew here.
Awesome. All right. Well, before we start with our game plan, I am going to actually address a couple points that I made personally on our last episode around tag and grading. And it was interesting because, or not interesting, but it was actually a really good discussion. But Jeremy Lee reached out to us on tag, which really appreciated, gave us some feedback, gave us a really nice note about the podcast and subscribing. And then we kind of had a quick discussion, but I just wanted to address a couple things that I said. And one of them was I made a comment around marketing BS, and I think it came off a little harsher than I wanted it to. And the fact I was trying to get at was just get past the marketing mumbo jumbo, do your own research, and figure out if tag is the right thing for you. Again, going back and listening to it, it came off a little harsh. So I just wanted to address that real quick. And then the second point was I made a joke there about, it sounded like once those tag videos that Jeremy Lee and Sports Cards Live did, like the next day he accepted the job at tag. Okay, it was a bad joke. I apologize to Jeremy. It wasn't in the best spirit. So we had a quick exchange back and forth. So I just wanted to address that too. Obviously, he's putting his brand behind it. He has basically dropped everything and went to tag to work with them. So obviously, if he believes in it and he supports them, he's taking a job there. I just wanted to address that and kind of address my little joke I made that probably wasn't the nicest. So
sure. Well, I think that's definitely nice of you to do. And there's really nothing much for me to add other than just to reiterate what I think we said last week too, that we are supportive of anyone that wants to innovate in the hobby. We generally think innovation is a good thing and are not rooting against any company. It's a real big hobby and there's enough space for all of us. So yeah, I guess we'll just leave it at that, right?
We'll leave it at that. It's all discussed and good to go. But as we get going, so I think I'm going to just go right into the game plan. So on today's show, we will start by looking at BGS hockey card gem rates. Next, it is on to hobby news, and we have a bunch of quick hit items to cover. It's actually a lot of topics in hobby news. Then we take a look at some of the top vintage hockey card sales year to date so far in 2022. Then we turn our focus onto the recent release of Clear Cut and some of our thoughts around the release and some analysis that we've done on values. And finally, we end the show with new product releases and our personal pickups and or sales.
All right, sweet. Let's get rolling. So we wanted to start this week talking about BGS and gem rate. A tiny bit of backstory here. So I don't know, 4 or 5 days ago, Troy, I was poking around on gemrate.com, which is a great site.
Yeah.
And y'all should check it out. And I stumbled on somehow these really, really high BGS gem rates. And I put out an Instagram post about that showing, I think it was like 7 or 8 different key players like Connor McDavid rookies or Auston Matthews or Jack Hughes, and communicating that, boy, these BGS gem rates seem real high. We typically don't like to intermingle too much our social media content with podcast content. But as Troy talked about that a little bit more, what we kind of realized is, we knew this, but you're real limited when it comes to Instagram and social media and trying to talk through pictures in the amount of context you could provide. And this was so interesting to us that we wanted to go a little bit deeper. And so we thought that we would talk about it a little bit on the podcast today. So just to get everyone caught up, I'll go through, I didn't rehash, I guess, all the players, but I took 4, which I think are notable, all different years, because sometimes we think, okay, well, maybe this particular year of Upper Deck, they had a little bit better quality than a previous year. So I wanted to kind of get a little bit of a broader sample that way. But when we look at Connor McDavid, 2015 Young Gun base, right? His BGS gem rate, Troy, is 82%. So 82 out of 100 cards that are submitted are gem mint. And that was really the one that got me thinking. It's like, wow, is that good? Is that possible? I mean, we've opened up our fair share of Upper Deck, and it seems, and now granted, we weren't heavily into the hockey hobby in 2015. So, maybe there's a difference, and so he's 82%. Well, you go in the next year, Auston Matthews, his Young Guns, 81%. Sidney Crosby, 2005. So let's, now go back 11 years prior to that, 70%. Jack Hughes up to 2019, 83%. Mm-hmm. These just seem on face value real high. And then, of course, as you know, as we talked, where the limitation we had on social media is, well, what's the context to that? How does that compare to other companies? And for us to really kind of maybe formulate, or other grading companies, so we can formulate a hypothesis or an opinion around that. And so I'll go back to McDavid quick. So he's 82% gem rate in BGS. And that's correlated into a real high pop count of 8,047. His PSA gem rate's 56%.
At PSA.
At PSA.
Yeah.
Right. So then you're going to get a much lower pop count, of course, at 2,370. And SGC doesn't have a lot of traction, but I thought it was worth noting on some of these. So it's 43% through SGC, pop of 61. So you have 82% BGS, 56% PSA, 43% SGC. One kind of interesting thing is when you look at how does the values correlate to these gem rates? So BGS at 82% gem rate, population 8,047, just about $1,200. So $1,199 is the current value. PSA 10 at a 56% gem rate is under 3,000, so $2,869. The interesting one to me, though, Troy, is SGC with, again, the very small pop of 61 last sold for $1,320. So if you compare the SGC to the BGS, right, you're going from 82% gem rate to 43%, and it's $120 more.
Yeah.
I will get into like what's the big picture stuff in a minute, but as I look at this, if I have a raw McDavid and I want to sub it to sell it, I'm definitely sending it to BGS. If I'm looking for a card to invest in, I think the SGC is a really good option at that point, because you're paying $100 premium for a much will look like a much more scarce card in an SGC holder. So just real quickly before we get into big picture, I'll go through some Matthews and Crosby and Hughes data. So Matthews, as I mentioned, was 81% gem rate BGS. It's 74% PSA, 57% SGC. BGS is Crosby is 2005 Young Guns. BGS is 70%, 60% in PSA, and 33% SGC. And then Jack Hughes, his 2019 Young Guns is 83% BGS, 75% PSA, and 68% SGC. So other than McDavid, it is closer.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. And especially when you look at PSA, the sample sizes are big enough where there shouldn't be probably this big of a range. Is that the way you would put it, Troy, in these grading gem rates?
Yeah, it is crazy what the range is. It's
So I guess the questions that I try to think of is, and I really want your opinion on this, is there such thing as a too high of a gem rate?
I think if I'm holding one of those cards, I think there is too high of a gem rate, because obviously if a lot more cards are gemming, that pop count's going to keep going up and up and up. And wait, what was it? Is it McDavid's pop? I mean, 8,000? Holy cow. That's getting into like basketball numbers, right? That's like Zion Williamson PSA 10s, which is, I don't know, it's some ridiculous number. But I just don't get why BGSs are so high. It's just, are they the most lenient? Do people understand, like, right, on the rating, BGS is 9.5 as gem mint, PSA is 10, SGC is 10, right, for gem mint?
Yep.
I've always wondered if that kind of throws
It's always the same grade.
Yeah.
Well, what I would tell you is I probably looked at 15 different notable cards, and I couldn't find one where BGS wasn't the highest gem rate. So gotcha. I think it's a fair hypothesis to say they're probably the most lenient when it comes to grading. The other thing that I would say, or note that I think is worth pointing out is there is the whole, and it would be a huge project to try to delineate all the different variations of the BGS gem mint, right? So there's a minimum gem mint, which would be 3 9.5 subgrades and one 9.0 subgrade. Then there's collectors will call a true gem mint, which would be all 9.5 subgrades, a true gem mint plus, which is all 9.5 subgrades, or 3 9.5 subgrades plus 110, or a true gem plus, right, which is 2 9.5 subgrades, 2 10 subgrades. And there's a difference in value. Definitely, if you're selling a card that's a BGS 9.5 and it's 2 9.5s and 2 10s, you absolutely want to put true gem plus in the headline of that auction or whatever market you're selling it from, because you're going to get more money.
Yeah.
As a result. But I think, much like you were saying, I look at a McDavid, which is Young Guns, one of the most important cards in hockey, and at an 82% gem rate, I don't want to say a BGS 9.5 is meaningless, but it kind of feels that way, doesn't it? Where if literally almost every single card that's sent in gets a gem.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just sitting here thinking off the top of my head, it's like, I mean, I guess if you really want that the best shot of getting a gem mint, I mean, set it to BGS, I guess. But I did like your idea about if you're looking at this from an investment standpoint, those SGC with such low pops and the value of the current pricing, that might be actually a good play for an investment. And then I'm guessing you'd still think PSA for an outright flip if you think you can get a gem mint. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit harder, but yeah, BG.
Yeah, if you're really, really confident.
Yeah.
You kind of just pointed out, and I was thinking about on the SGC front, it seems like they're, and I haven't looked at like baseball and basketball and football, but that they're being pretty stingy on grades.
I've heard that on other podcasts that have talked about grading and sending stuff in. And it seems like besides, well, I don't know if BGS, for sure PSA and SGC, I think it's consensus they're getting stricter. And out of those two, it sounds like SGC is for sure being the strictest out of all of them. Maybe, listeners disagree or seen some other anecdotal data or actually done research, but I'd be curious but that's what it seems like. It seems like they've been getting stricter, which I guess is a good thing.
It does seem that way. It's probably in response to fears over hobby growth and correlated higher print runs of different sets and cards and wanting to protect scarcity. I guess that would be my best guess.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that I think about is in some way is the gem rates that we're seeing in hockey, at least through Young Guns base, is that affecting Beckett values at all? Because it does seem like, and I don't know if it's just SGC's momentum in general. You look at, what is it now, like 3 or 4 of the top selling cards in the last year are all SGC cards. So that's going to definitely bolster them up a little bit. But it's kind of shocking to see BGS cards or BGS gem mints start to go for less than SGC 10s.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, this is actually a research project. Someone that either we should do, or I feel there's like a research paper just begging to be written here by this little discussion.
And I think another important point to make too, because I'm sort of anticipating this comment, is that I did look at other cards beyond Young Guns base, and particularly at Future Watch Autos, and the gem rates between Beckett and PSA are much closer, and there's not such a wide gap there. So it just seems to be on these base paper cards that Beckett seems to be very lenient on grading. SGC really isn't a factor for Future Watch Autos yet. There's hardly any submissions at all. It seems like people either go to Beckett or PSA.
Yeah, and what I think we've talked about this in the past, Beckett seems to have a pretty good stronghold in hockey, and actually in older hockey too, right? In the last 10 years. Like I think you were saying, you look on eBay and a lot of the graded cards are in BGS slabs.
Yeah, when you look at the highest hockey card sales of all times, many, if not most, well, I would say most, would still be in BGS holders. Yeah. And I think that comes from 2 things. Number one, they were the preeminent grader before PSA.
Yeah.
And then the second is they still have a real strong foothold, I think, on the RPA side, especially with patches and thicker cards.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people have preferred to send those guys their cards. And I think in general too, Troy, I don't know if you feel the same way, but when we really started to get back into the hobby a few years ago, at that point, I thought grading was pretty straightforward. Maybe it's just the more we learned, or as the hobby has evolved, it's really confusing to me right now what to do with a particular card. I feel like you have to know, in order to maximize value, all these little nuances of each of the grading companies and do a heck of a lot of research. And I don't know, it just seems really not straightforward to me.
Yeah, it is. It's do your research. And I think you and me can run into this where we start looking at this and you get kind of analysis paralysis, where you think you found all these different little trends, but then you see something that contradicts it. And, we do know people out there that we've kind of met through social media that grade a lot. And they've given us kind of some insights too. So yeah, grading is, you definitely have to do your research to know what's going on. It's not as simple as just send it off willy-nilly to whoever, and you'll be fine. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it.
I don't know if there's much more to say on this topic. I just thought it was interesting that I couldn't believe that the gem rates were as high as they are. What does it mean for the big picture?
Yeah.
I don't know. It would be great for you guys to reach out to us or comment on Instagram or Facebook and give us your thoughts, because definitely want to learn from everybody and try to, I guess, formulate a better opinion around this. But I guess all I'll maybe reiterate is, man, when you're talking 82% gem rate, right, where the whole concept of grading is, number one, to authenticate the card to make sure that it's real, and then to essentially engineer scarcity, right, and to identify the best of the best. And when 82% get that gem mint credential from a very respected grading company like Beckett, it kind of diminishes to me, to some extent, the value of that.
Yeah, well, I mean, really the next step of this is to let's look at all young guns from every year and their gem rate by company. Now, do you have time to do that? I don't think so. But maybe. Who knows?
Probably.
Who knows?
And I guess maybe the last thing I'll say in their defense is maybe it's just grade the card, right? It's not, they don't control the production of cards. And if they're really confident that 82 of 100 McDavid Young Guns are perfect, or at least close enough to get to gem mint status, then maybe it isn't fair to criticize them. I just inherently think that seems high. But okay, we'll move on. Hobby news. You mentioned there's a lot going on right now. One of the things that I wanted to bring up is the Leaf autograph versus PSA. A little bit of, I guess you'd call it, drama that started on Twitter. Were you aware of that?
I was aware of it because you sent me a note about it right when it was kind of happening, or maybe the day after. And then I think I heard on another podcast them talking about it. So,
oh, you read my messages.
I do.
Good to know. Love it. Okay, so here's the backstory on this. So there's a Twitter account. It's PPG Cards. So they posted a tweet that basically was a public service announcement or warning to people that said, well, if anyone has Leaf soccer cards in this case that are autoed, that PSA is declining to grade. I don't know the right way to describe it, if it's some or many or most, or so we'll just leave a number of these cards. And this guy had sent a 1-of-1 Pele printing plate into PSA, and they declined to grade it. Now, these aren't cards that were taken to an event where Pele hand signed them. These are cards from the manufacturer that have the manufacturer's guarantee of authenticity on the back. And so obviously as a collector, that would be shocking to send a card like that in. And I think I'm looking PSA. I'm looking for I had in our notes, Troy. So their response when this person sent it in for grading was, a reason why they wouldn't grade the auto was inconclusive or unable to render an opinion, which is not, to be fair, not saying we think this is fake. What they're saying is it's inconclusive. Where this got really interesting is at some point in the thread here on Twitter, Brian Gray, who's the CEO of Leaf, chimes in and says, and I'm going to quote here, yes, PSA is out of their minds. All of these were witnessed by a Leaf rep. This has been a problem lately in multiple areas and is becoming suspicious, right? Well, then after that, Ken Golden, who works, obviously started Golden Auctions, which is owned by Collectors Universe, who also owns PSA, chimes in and responds with a couple popcorn emojis, right? Which is kind of funny.
Yeah, he's woke.
But
he's woke.
Not really substantive there. And then Nat Turner, the CEO of Collectible, responds to Brian Gray's comment. And again, quoting, every single sticker signing is witnessed by Leaf, ? Right. So now it's getting really now you're it's coming to light that PSA has some suspicion here over Leaf autos. And then last point in the conversation I'll mention is, to that, Brian Gray, the CEO of Leaf, responds, any that aren't have sworn affidavits by players and agent-assigned witnesses. Pele, Pacino, and Messi, all recent PSA-related hassles, and again, this is a quote, were Beckett witness. So he mentions that Beckett must be witnessing a number of these. Okay, so hopefully that gets everyone caught up to speed with what's going on here. So why are we talking about PSA not or declining to autograph Leaf soccer cards here on a hockey podcast? It's because, of course, Leaf produces a number of hockey sets and a number of sets that are auto-driven. And at least PSA seems to be calling into question the validity or veracity of the autos that you may have on whether it be Leaf Superlative or Signature Series or some of their more popular sets. So what are my takeaways on this? I guess the first is I probably, if I had any of these cards and I wanted it graded or authenticated, I probably wouldn't send it to PSA until this shakes out. I think it's jumping way too many steps in the process to say any sort of assertion that Leaf autographs are not, fake is too strong of a word, because even if they, what happens in some of these cases is, or has been known to happen, is a player might have their mother sign for them or their agent, or so this is by no means trying to say that Leaf is doing anything suspicious. But I don't know. I've never heard of an instance like this where you have a trading card company that is well known, that has autographs in their sets, and one of the grading card companies is basically declining to authenticate it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's probably happened in the past, but I didn't go back and research this month. I mean, a couple of things that jump out to me. I absolutely love this, that two CEOs from a company are going at it on Twitter. I think that's hilarious. Like, what other industry or hobby do you see that besides if it's Elon Musk? But could you see Coke and Pepsi just going at each other into the Twitters? I absolutely love this.
Yeah, you're right, though, because we still are probably at the phase of growth where this can happen. 10 years from now, it'll be letters from lawyers, right?
Yeah. I mean, unless it's the Wendy's Twitter account, which is absolutely hilarious if you don't follow it, because they just go after everyone. Yeah. And I mean, I kind of like that a grading company is actually taking a step back. Now, as long as it's not due to, Brian Lee, what catches me is Brian Lee's comment about this being suspicious. Like, I don't know what PSA's alternative motive would be if they're trying to be dicey about something, but I actually like that a grading company is taking a step back and they've identified an issue. We don't know what it is. Is it with the auto? Is it with their process or something? I'm actually glad that a company is taking that step. I wish some of the other ones that we've had were like BBC with the wrapping and stuff could have taken a step back and said, no, we're not going to authenticate this. But
PSA has every incentive to grade these cards, right? Even this getting out that the natural consequence is that people won't send Leaf autos into PSA for grading, and that hurts them money. There seems to be a great fear, which I totally understand, from all these grading companies now that social media is so prevalent and regular collectors have such a voice that any mistake they make gets magnified. And none of them want to be what was the baseball one where that was Topps?
Yeah, it was Topps. It was Tampa Bay Rays. I know Austin Meadows. I can't remember who the other player is. You looked at the card. It was literally the same style of signature. And Topps immediately knew it. They was like, hey, give Topps credit. They came out and said, we screwed up. We had an issue in our process, and we're going to make it right. We're going to give you a new card, and I think send you a different card too. But that just made these cards become way more valuable because the card itself wasn't worth much. But if you could get the redemption that they were going to send out, it was actually a lot more valuable. So actually it made it people trying to get it. And it was a short print too. So.
But you can understand, though, the grading card company's perspective when this stuff starts happening to say, well, can we take Topps' word for it? Can we take Panini or Leaf or Upper Deck or whoever it might be? Or do we have to go a step beyond that because no company like you mentioned with the whole BBCE issue, wants all, to be a viral social media trend about how they authenticated and graded a fake autograph or a non-player signed auto if fake is too strong there. So I don't know, Troy, does this situation give you pause on Leaf? Would you?
Not yet. I mean, and I'm not the big. I don't. Excuse me. I don't collect Leaf, so I'm probably not the best to ask. But it wouldn't. Right now, it would not stop me if I saw a Pelle Lindbergh auto from a Leaf card or an older. I don't even know if he has any, but it wouldn't stop me if it was a player I PC. I would still look at Leaf, but I'll definitely watch it and see what the developments are.
Yep. So that is a great point. We will keep our tabs on it. Probably enough for this topic for now, but we just wanted to get that out there in case you are considering buying or breaking with Leaf products, that just to make sure, you have the best information to make your own decision. So there's lots of actually card show stuff to get into. But before we do that, we did want to mention really quickly, we don't typically do this, but we thought it was notable that Jake Ottinger signed a new deal with Dallas Stars. I think, Troy, it's 3 years, $12 million, so $4 million average annually. And for us, what made it notable is, well, first of all, he's coming off a fantastic postseason. He had that epic was it game 6 or game 7? Where he had 60 saves, even though the Stars lost, and he was standing on his head basically the whole game. But I guess you'll have probably better commentary around this, but I think as we talked earlier from our perspective, it really cements him as Dallas's starting goalie, which should be good news for Ottinger collectors and investors.
Well, it's definitely good news for me because he's one of the guys I PC, so I have a nice Ottinger collection that this helps. Yeah, I mean, it was interesting reading about the negotiations. He wanted term. Dallas didn't want to give him as much term, but gave him more money. So they kind of just met in the middle, and I think they had to sign him. They needed to lock him up for a little bit longer term because he looks like he's going to be the future. Still young, so I'm excited for him and to watch him keep getting better.
Now let's move on to some card show news. So first of all, Dallas is this weekend. It's one of the larger regional, I think it's the best way to put it, card shows in the U.S. It happens 4 times a year. Is that right, Troy, or is it 6?
Man,
I think it's 4.
Yeah, I thought it was 6, but now that you're convinced, or you're saying 4, I think it might be
4 to 6. Like we've done with shows like this in the past, we'll kind of throw it out there to you guys. If any of you are going, we do know a couple people that are already going. We'd love to get a hockey card report. One of our co-hosts, Troy, has been becoming very famous for making last-minute cross-country trips. Is Dallas on the radar this weekend, Troy? Are we going to Dallas, or what's happening?
Well, I looked at the schedule, and if I absolutely needed to, we could probably make it happen, but I have kid stuff going on that I don't know if I can get away from. So I'm going to put it at about, there's probably a 20% chance I would be able to get to Dallas.
So you're saying there's a chance?
So you're saying there's a chance.
All right. Well, I'll keep working on you there. We'll take that offline. But again, it's one of the bigger shows, so hopefully there will be at least a decent, it is in Texas, so don't have too high hopes in that regard, but hopefully there's a decent hockey presence. There was more news this week regarding the upcoming Toronto Sports Expo, which is November 10th through 13th. The first round of guests, so players that they're going to have where you can pay, wait in line, and get cards or sticks or pucks or jerseys signed, were announced. So here's the list, Troy. Tell me if any of these do it for you. So Phil Esposito, $69 a card, $29 if you want an inscription added. Daryl Sittler, $60 a card, $15 for inscription added extra. Mike Modano, $59 per card, $15 for inscription. And Yari Curry, which is $45 a card and $10 for inscription.
The one that actually I would be interested in is Jari Kurri. I don't know if it's because I'm cheap, but I love Jari Kurri when he played for the Oilers. So that one interests me. Now, do I have anything for him to sign? No, I'd have to. I don't know if they do the picture or whatever the base thing they give out is. But Jari Kurri to me is interesting. The other ones, I mean, yeah, it'd be cool to have their autographs, but I don't think I'd pay for it.
What are the odds that we could get a Madonna rookie in the North Stars sweater, and where he would do the inscription "F.U. Norm Green"?
That would be classic. Plus, and you get it signed. I'll sit there with my phone recording it, so we have evidence, and then it would. Who knows? It'd probably sell for $1,000 to some crazy Minnesota fan that hates Norm Green. Well, you're not really a North Stars or a Minnesota Wild fan unless you hate Norm Green, because he's the one that ran the North Stars out of town and moved them.
Yeah, for no real good reason, because they sold out just about every game. But we'll digress off that. I'm guessing there's a 0% chance he would do that. But it's almost worth trying just to see his response. If you like peeked a smile, that might make my day. Yeah, I was kind of interested in Jari Kurri too. I might have to buy some Jari Kurri cards. There was a couple baseball and basketball guys on there too, but hey, this is a hockey card podcast, so you can go look up on their website for that, because I didn't write them down. There are more guest announcements to come, so I'm guessing maybe they'll have some other bigger names. That would be cool. Another thing that I thought was kind of funny, and again, I've never been to the expo, and I know you haven't either, so maybe this is common knowledge to all the people that go every year. So you've been to Disney, right, Troy?
Oh, yes.
So they have a fast pass concept too, where you can pay between like 10 and 20 extra dollars, depending on the player, to, I'm assuming, skip ahead.
Yep.
In the line. And Mina, for sure you would do that.
Yes, I am a sucker for any kind of fast pass, VIP lane, anything, because I'm at a point in my life and an age where I do not want to wait in lines. I can't stand it. So I will pay extra, and I would definitely get the fast pass if I needed to get past everyone.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of want to, just for the sake of experiencing what that's like when we are in Toronto for the expo. And I'm going to wait to see who the final list of guests are. But I think I might do it. I might find maybe Kurri or Madonna would be of the two of the four that I'd be interested in as well.
Would you get the fast pass?
Well, if you did, yeah.
Would you turn around and look at everyone in the slow line and just
yeah, mock them as they. Anything else on the expo, Troy, or should we move on to the national?
I think the expo's good. We're going hotel rooms booked from the retreat last weekend, and we're good to go.
Sweet. Okay. So there's actually noteworthy news on the national as well. So they have officially, I think people kind of knew this already, but it became official that next year's national will be in Chicago. The dates are July 26th through 30. We'll definitely plan on being there as well. And then subsequently in 2024, it'll switch to Cleveland and then back to Chicago in 2025. So they're definitely going the Midwest vibe. Mm-hmm. Probably, makes sense to cover the whole country and make it a reasonable flight for everybody. The Chicago-Cleveland area seems to make sense. And then there was a note, I think they're switching management companies. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I think they're switching over to a new company in 2024. Was it JBJ Corporation is the people that are running it. They're going to take over in 2024 from the previous company. And the only thing I found that interesting is because they've come out and said, maybe we need to move locations around a little more so that they, throwing out your Nashvilles, your Vegas, your other cities that are out there besides, Atlantic City, Cleveland, Chicago. I think they have it in their mind to kind of expand it, but we'll see. I mean, Chicago is definitely central. However, the airport is atrocious. So everyone flying into Chicago, have fun.
Yeah.
Including us.
That might be unless we drive. Okay. So actually the last bit of show news is something that we want to start doing more frequently if you guys either have a show you want us to attend or have a show that is all hockey or has a good amount of hockey, we would love to start as shouting these out a little bit to help you promote them a little bit and, trying to give back a little bit to the hobby and help grow hockey here. And we had our first ask, I guess, to do that. A gentleman named Luke, who follows us on Instagram, he asked us to promote it's in Winnipeg coming up this Saturday. It's the Bronx Park Spectacular at the Bronx Park Community Center, 720 Henderson Highway. Looks hours are kind of morning to early afternoon, it looks like. And he said there's 40 plus tables with hockey. So if you're in the Winnipeg area and you want to go to a show that has a decent amount of hockey, this one, we haven't been there, of course, but this might be a good one for you to attend. And if you guys have any shows, feel free to reach out to us and we'll shout them out. And as I was saying that, I hesitate a little. Did you ever listen to Howard Stern?
Not really. No, actually. I mean, unless you were listening, then I did.
Do you know like Sal and Richard, the guys that work for him? You know how they made a career out of basically how like television morning shows will do happy birthday announcements.
Okay.
And they would get these shows to read like
just most fake names or something.
Fake names, yeah, that were really perverted or horrible to say. I just had that flash as I was saying that. So we're going to be looking out for any fake names, but we're probably dumb and we'll read them anyways. All right, so that's what I had for hobby news. Anything else, Troy, before we move on to a vintage topic this week?
No, I am good. I'm excited to hear about other. I hope people write in with more shows that have hockey. That'll be exciting. All right, like Josh said, it is time to look at a vintage topic, which has been a little bit, I think, since we've actually done some deep diving or just looking at vintage cards besides our Mount Rushmore series. I'm excited, Josh. Are you excited?
Yeah, I think it's a good time to do it because as we've talked about, we're on the heels of the upcoming season and we're going to get really caught up in who scored more goals last week. And I think it's going to be a little bit tough as for the first month or two to get to vintage topics. So we want to make that a point of emphasis for the next few weeks.
Definitely. So what we decided to do is we just wanted to look, a very simple premise, just what are the top 10 vintage player sales year to date. And to give a little level setting on what we meant by vintage, we looked at players that started their careers pre-1980. So that would include players that started playing in 1979, 1980 season, just to let you know so you'll see some players that were like, whoa, well, they played in 1980, but they started their rookie season probably in 79. So we looked at pre-1980, and then we excluded Wayne Gretzky because his amount of sales are so far and away number one. You already know he's number one, and he was a rookie in 79, 80. So we excluded Gretzky. That's kind of how we level setted. We looked at using Card Ladder. We used the Card Ladder sales history, and the date we ran it through was January 1st, 2022 through September 3rd, 2022, when we kind of did our analysis. And again, we're using Card Ladder. It's not going to be 100% accurate. Remember that. We're not trying to be 100% perfect, but it will give a very good idea around sales and general direction of all these players.
Yeah, and I think the other thing I would add on Gretzky is not only is he the highest selling vintage player, he's the highest selling of any player. So whether it be current or start of all time. And he skews the data so much that for this exercise, I think it's worth eliminating him.
Yeah.
But I think to your point, Troy, the interesting question in all this was, for those of us that want to learn more about vintage, and I definitely put myself in that category, who are the most popular players? Who sells the most? And honestly, I couldn't have answered that question before you did the research. So I'm really excited to see who you came up or who you found.
So I'm just going to read through the list. This is the top 10 with number of sales. So it's a count metric, right? We're not going into dollars. It's just a count metric. And Josh, I'm assuming you've seen the list, so I won't try to ask you who's number one. But number one, again, remember, excluding Gretzky, is Bobby Orr with around 5,900 sales. Number 2 would be Gordie Howe, and his was around 3,800 year to date. Again, remember, this is just year to date this year. Number 3 was Guy Lafleur, right around 3,757. And then 4th was Mark Messier, 3,300, followed by Ray Bourque with around 3,100. And then Bobby Hull, right around, almost within 4 of Ray Bourque. 7 was Mike Bossy at 2,429. And then we have rounding out Phil Esposito with around 2,000. Number 9 is our first goalie. And this one, I can actually say, truly surprised me. It was Ken Dryden at 1,399. But once you research him and realize who he played for, it probably shouldn't surprise me that much. And number 10 was Tony Esposito. So another goalie at 1,309. So that was kind of the top 10 list. I guess, Josh, I'm going to let you, if you want to go with your thoughts, just hearing those names, or if you want me to go, I can keep rolling and tell you what I thought.
No, I'll go first, okay. And then I think we'll swing back to you. So I think I just want to reiterate your criteria a little bit. Obviously, Messier and Bourque's rookie cards are 1980 hockey cards, but they did start their career in 1979, right? So that's why they're included on this list. As far as the names go, the big one that stood out to me as being actually kind of low is Mike Bossy at 7. So you have Bobby Hull, Ray Bourque, Messier, in particular, that have sold more cards than him this year. I guess maybe I would have guessed that he would have been a little bit higher. And at first I thought, boy, this just doesn't seem like a lot of sales. And then I guess I challenged my assumption on that. And I actually spent a little time after I saw your list, Troy. And I thought, well, how does this compare to like Connor McDavid, right? So if Bobby Hull has sold 5,849 cards year to date, is that a tenth of McDavid? Is it half? Is it more? I mean, obviously not. But, and so I did look up, just for comparison's sake, year-to-date number of cards sold for McDavid, Crosby, Ovechkin, and Matthews. I thought, well, that'd be a decent comparison. And so I don't know if you've seen this, Troy, yet either, but so McDavid sold 14,602 cards, Crosby just under 1,100, Ovechkin about 12,000, or Crosby just under 11,000. Yeah. Ovechkin about 12,000, and Matthews 7,800. So it actually made me think that, boy, the vintage market, again, these are cards that are, these guys typically started pre-1980, that the market for these players is actually pretty decent. So if you have Bobby Orr, who's just 2,000 sales less than Auston Matthews, that's a pretty, I think, healthy sign for, and I don't know how much of that is booned by, obviously he's the GOAT defenseman. So, I think he's always had a lot of status, but he's definitely one of those cards that is in like stature, a lot of these sort of legend inserts we're seeing in sets. Yeah, I don't know. I guess those are my, and again, and then the other thing, Troy, I guess the last thing that really made me think about, in a weird way, current players looking at this list is how few, if you look at like, I think probably any sport, maybe not just hockey, but decade by decade, sort of who are the players that stand the test of time and have that truly elite or legendary status. There's maybe 5 or 10 players, probably close to 5, 10's too much, in any decade that, right, so like 80s would be Yzerman and Lemieux and Joe Sakic and Patrick Waugh, right? And maybe some, as we think about what seems like the endless pool of young talent we have right now, and as we're all trying to figure out, okay, who do I want to invest in? Boy, is the young gun, is it $1,000 or $4,000 for a Moritz Seider Young Guns exclusive? Is that a good investment? It's like, how many, 20 years from now, there's probably only going to be 4 or 5 of the guys we're talking about all the time right now that have had long-term staying power and value in the hobby.
It's the beautiful thing. It's the beautiful thing. I tried to figure all that out. Yeah,
trying to figure out, okay, who are the 4? Yeah, right, or the 5 or whatever it'll end up.
Well, doing this little project definitely makes you think about that kind of stuff. How just you remember all the names you remember growing up, and how when you think about the legends, there's only a handful of those guys that are still relevant in the hobby. even though you'd probably like more of them to be relevant. But
yeah, I think of a guy like, and this might be similar to you, but I feel like Theo Fleury was a big deal for a number of years when we were young, and doesn't have a lot of relevance today.
Plus, he was with Calgary, right? Is that who I remember? Right?
I think mainly, yeah.
Side note on him, if you want to read kind of a horrible bet, like you come upraising and everything, I know he came out with a book. Like it's really interesting how he succeeded given the circumstances he had to deal with.
The whole coach thing. Yeah, I know a little bit about that. That's horrific.
Yeah, being a high school coach, I always am interested by that stuff, and you just realize the effect people have on players, and it's be good. Dang it.
Yeah. Okay. So what were your takeaways?
Yeah. So my takeaways, I'm kind of a little bit the opposite. I think if you had, and we should have done this, if blindfolded me or whatever and asked me just to name off the names, I feel like I could have got 6 or 7 of them. I feel like I would have been able to nail most of these.
Who do you have missed?
I think Dryden would surprise me, and I think Tony Esposito would have surprised. I mean, obviously they're good goalies. I wouldn't have thought a goalie would be on the list. But actually having 2 goalies, Bobby Hull, he shouldn't surprise me, but I don't follow Bobby. I never followed Bobby Hull as a kid. I mean, he was at the tail end of his career, I think, when we were growing up, or even done by the time we were growing up. And I know he's had some stuff in his background that one surprised me. So those 3, I probably wouldn't have been able to guess.
Okay, so the list again is Orr, Howe, Lafleur, Messier, Bork, Hull, Bobby Hull, Mike Bossy, Phil Esposito, Ken Dryden, Tony Esposito. Was there anyone that isn't on this list that you would have guessed would be?
I don't think so. I mean, the list to me actually looks pretty good from what I would have thought.
Yeah, no, Marcel Dion, wouldn't that be?
I don't think so. I mean, he's one of those sneaky guys where it's just like he had a bunch of goals, but you never really thought about him. He was just a steady. He never had I don't know if he ever had a huge season where he scored a ton of goals. Maybe he did, and I just misremembered. But he was, again, we were just kids when he was playing. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought of him as being on this list right when I thought about it. And just to go, I should have said this earlier, if anyone's curious, the top 5 goalies were Ken Dryden, Tony Esposito, and then third would be Jacques Plante, which I thought was interesting that he was third, followed by Gary Cheevers, and Bernie Parent was 5th. And Bernie Parent had 854 sales, so less than 1,000, but it's still pretty relevant for a Flyers goalie.
Well, do you figure there's been about, I didn't even look this up, so I'm guessing here, but 200 days so far this year? That's got to be a close approximation, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're through 8 months and just times it by 30, 240 there.
240. So at 850 sales, it's 2.5 sales a day. Yeah. Right? I guess that's one way that you could definitely look at it.
Yeah, and I think a couple other points I had, just thinking off the top of my head, I said even though the names are kind of what I expected, it's these guys' names are stuff, they're still names you're seeing in current product, which helps them immensely. Obviously stature. Well, I think a lot of these guys are in stature, or a lot of the newer releases by Upper Deck, which helps their sales for this year, obviously, with those new releases. And then remembering that deaths play a role, how morbid it is, but Guy Lafleur dying probably bumped his numbers up. Obviously, he's still an all-time great, and he would probably be in the top 10 anyways. So I don't know if that changed him makes him 4 or 3 or whatever, depending on that. But it's just stuff you have to be aware of.
Yeah. How many, or what are the odds that Gary Cheevers would be on this list if he wasn't still signing a bunch of cards for Upper Deck right now?
You know what that is? That's a great point, because I saw him and he was number 4 on the goalie list. Did I skip him? He was number 4 on the goalie list.
No, you talked about him.
Okay, I did say his name. I don't know if he's on that list without him being in almost every product that's coming out recently. He must have signed, or he's signed a deal or something. But yeah, but he was, Gary Cheevers is very interesting. We could have a whole segment on him.
Yeah, I honestly don't know a lot about him other than he's in all these products. And it kind of brings up an interesting point on vintage and how people learn about these players. And I think that is a really important avenue, is through these cards. And you got a guy like Pelle Lindbergh, or even now Guy Lafleur, who obviously won't be, unless there's a bunch of stickers that he had signed previously, but won't be any upcoming sets, that it's hard to get exposure, I guess, for who you were. And then I think goalies in particular, because they have the tiny leather pads and the crazy face masks, like they're just really cool looking cards, and you throw their auto in there, and it's a good way to get people, I guess, interested in vintage.
Yeah. So I think it was definitely a great little research project and finding out who is relevant. And if you're just starting out, this would be a great list to start with if you just wanted to look at vintage players to start your collection.
Yep. So hopefully you found that useful. Who knows where we go from here? It did kind of give me the bug on vintage a little bit, I'll be honest. And so I'm really interested in digging deeper and learning more about a whole bunch of these guys and just what the hobby was like back then, I guess.
Yeah, I think I've got a real big bug on that Jock Plant card now that the one sold at auction. We did the Mount Rushmore goalies, and I was able to get him on the Mount Rushmore goalies, and then his name comes up again here, and I think
was that the 55?
It's like 50, 54 or 55. I can't exactly remember, but I might be on the hunt in Toronto because I'm sure there'll be one or two floating around. I might see what I can find. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to afford a PSA 10 or a Beckett 10.
I think that was like a 7 or 8. And in typical Gong Show fashion, we get interested in cards immediately after they set their all-time high because that's how good we are at this.
Why not, right? Why not?
Let's buy Kaprizov rookies and then have them lose 2/3 their value. Okay, so let's move on to newer cards. And a week or so ago now, we had Clear Cut come out. And so we thought it was a good time and appropriate to share with everyone a couple of things. Number one, just give our general reactions. We did what we always do, and we got our hands on the product a little bit ourselves. We watch a lot of breaks, look for a lot of comments, look through social media, and try to get a sense of what the hobby thinks of the product. And so we have some thoughts to share. And then we actually did a lot of digging on values for Clear Cut because I think, Troy, you'd agree, we think this is a really interesting set from a investment, and it's a 1-card box, so pretty high risk, high reward. But maybe I'll start, Troy, before we get into the values and just give my general thoughts, and then you can chime in too. First of all, the cards look great. I think they're really cool. From what we saw in person, the quality seems to be what you would expect to get, a 1-card box with an encased card. The few we've seen seem pretty sharp cornered and edges look good. So that's a big win. I like encased cards. I don't know. It's just my personal bias, I guess. But I love opening boxes that have those cards. I think too, the sentiment that I've observed, whether it be in break rooms or in social media, is that, again, pretty positive response to the product. Would you agree with that?
I wholeheartely agree with that. I think a lot of people really like this product.
It is high risk, high reward, and that's going to come up a lot. The only little negatives I've seen is that there's literally $5 cards in these boxes. And when you spend $150 and it's 1 card and you get $5, you're bound. Now there's been $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 cards too. So there's the other end of the spectrum on that, but it's not the quality or the type of cards, or it's just I guess why I brought it up is any negative feedback I've seen is more who they pulled versus who they didn't. And I guess before we get into the numbers, my general thoughts on Clear Cut is if investment to value is really what's the most important and drives your collecting, you're going to have a much better return buying any of these cards singularly on the secondary market. Yeah. But if you like fun rips and you love the big chase and you're willing to gamble a little bit, and $150 is within your budget, it is fun to open. And we know that firsthand because we've opened a few boxes ourselves. You just have to be really cognizant of the risk-reward ratio.
Yeah, I would say, looking at Clear Cut, if you would have asked me, I don't know, 2 or 3 months ago if I was interested in it and told me, it's this $150 one encased card, I would have said no. I'd have been like, nope, not for me. And then, of course, I went out and bought some boxes, opened it up, and I actually really, really enjoyed opening the boxes and looking at the cards. And maybe that has part to do with what cards I got, but even watching them getting pulled in breaks. I'm actually really looking forward to the clear cut portion because usually, they do like extended or, whatever, black diamond or something. And then I'm really looking forward to when they get the extended or to the clear cut boxes because I love seeing the cards that are pulled out of these boxes. So,
it's high drama when they, as they call it, sweat, right?
Yep.
The reveal of the card. Because, it's the one, listen, I suppose it's not true, but you open up a box of Series 2, and I guess there could be a high gloss Cider or Byfield, which would be, but most, often you're going to get cards that aren't worth thousands of dollars. Yeah. The odds of pulling a card, a 4-figure at least card, in clear cut is a little bit higher than in a typical set. And so, I think that leads to the drama. Any other thoughts in general on it before we get into some of the data?
I mean, you summed up everything. I just would like, a lot of the times, we don't say this enough, but I actually think Upper Deck did a fantastic job with this product. I mean, I really enjoy it, and I think it's been absolutely fabulous so far. So kudos to Upper Deck on this one.
Yeah, they're on a hot streak, man.
Yeah.
I think extended with by and large, the inserts were pretty good. Yep. The Black Diamond is, we did the Moritz Cider top sales, and I think 3 of the 5 today were Black Diamond. Yep. So pretty successful release there. Series 2 was obviously really good, and they're kind of killing it right now. So definitely, we'll be critical when we need to, but you got to give, people their props too. And they definitely deserve it for these last number of releases. Okay, so let's look into some of the data. So the biggest sale so far, and I love this because I am such a exquisite rube, but there's a Kaprizov Exquisite Auto 249 that sold, I think on the 2nd, it was, of September for $3,045. It's by far the biggest sale on at least any public secondary market. We've heard rumblings of like McDavid autos that have sold through private sales for a little bit more, but obviously we can't verify those. So
if they're not verified Card Ladder has a functionality. If you want to, you can upload private sales. So that's one avenue, or else we'd have to actually see the transaction, I guess, happen and to verify those. So we understand, there's private sales happening, but we just can't verify them. So.
The second highest selling card was an Auston Matthews UD Canvas Red Ink Auto. And the red inks are numbered to jersey number. So in his case, it'd be to 34. That sold for $1,000. And probably the Exquisite Rookie Autos and the Red Ink Canvas, I think, are my 2 favorite cards in the set. So I thought it was kind of interesting that those represented the top 2 sales. There's a Wayne, third highest selling card, Troy. It's a Wayne Gretzky Champs Auto. Now, Champs is probably my personal least favorite card in clear cut, but obviously it's any Gretzky auto is going to command huge dough, and other people might love it. So it's just a personal opinion there. And then this one's a really interesting card to me, and actually probably not a bad buy. So there's a version of the Red Ink auto that's a little more exclusive, but it's not red ink, it's blue. So there's a Jason Robertson UD Canvas blue ink auto numbered out of 10 that sold for $665.
So the blue ink's rarer than the red ink?
Well, those are numbered out of 10. Well,
depending on the jersey number, I guess.
Yeah. So in the case of Cale Makar, right, and I think his 2019 clear cut canvas red ink auto out of 8 sells for about $10,000.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Right. So yeah, I suppose that there has to be a caveat there. I like the red inks better because I think the numbering out of the jersey number is cool. And obviously with a big rookie like Kaprizov out of 97, you're going to have a lot higher number there versus when Makar was a rookie out of 8. But I just think that is a neat concept. So from a top sales perspective, does that kind of in line with what you thought would be? Does it surprise you a little bit?
No, that's
too early to tell.
I mean, I think too early to tell, but the names don't surprise me at all that they're the ones in the tops.
I feel like I've noticed a lot of Auston Matthews autos, and maybe that's just the luck of the draw and all the boxes that I've seen open, but I don't know. I feel like I've just seen a lot of them.
Yeah. Okay.
So actually I went really deep into clear cut sales data, and I do have some more information. So as of this morning on Tuesday, the day we're recording this, I looked up and reviewed all 227 sales on eBay, which given listen, the set's been out a week. There's not enough time for any PWCC auctions or golden auctions or anything like that. So eBay is really probably the most comprehensive secondary market. And we already talked about it's a fun rip. The cards are awesome, very high risk, high reward. And I think a lot of that, Troy, and honestly, I haven't done the analysis of years past and look at checklists, but we started talking about this a month ago when we were previewing Clear Cut, that the checklist is very big.
Very big. Yes.
And there's a lot of rookies. And that's probably Upper Deck, again, their response to the hobby is growing. How do we protect scarcity? Well, instead of featuring 50 or 100 rookies in a product, we'll do 150 or something. Yeah. And I don't know, it may be the same as it's always been, so I don't want to be incorrect there, but it is a checklist. So ultimately what's going to happen is some people are going to be really happy and other people are going to get, a lot of people are going to get cards from rookies that you've hardly heard of, definitely lesser names that correlate into lesser value. So here's what the data shows. So of the 227 sales, the mean or average sales amount is 118.15. So that's, from a flipping perspective, that's not a good sign. We've talked about this. This is not a great flipping product. It means that on average, you're going to lose money if you try to open a box or a few boxes with the intention of flipping. The median, so looking at if there's 227 sales, right, looking at the 113th sale, the middle is $49. So it gets a little bit uglier.
Yeah, that to me is very interesting because the mean, that could get thrown out by those high ones. That will push that up a little bit. That median is very telling.
79% of the 227 sales have sold for less money than the average box cost, which we use as 150. Yep. That means there's about an 80% chance you're not going to have a positive ROI. 51% of sales are for less than $50. There's private sales that we can't track. Another thing to consider is that you pull a Wayne Gretzky auto, you're probably more likely to hold it in the first week. Yep. Versus you pull a Liam Foudy auto, you're probably more likely to dump it, right? Yeah. So the data could be skewed in that regard too. And, so it's not a sort of a comprehensive analysis. It's more like a lot of what we try to present is try to be more directional in how should you make choices. And so, again, I go back to with Clear Cut, Troy, if you don't care and you love the big chase, you're willing to gamble, you want a fun rip, go ahead, buy some boxes. Yep. If you're an investor, your safest bet is to look for cards on eBay or the secondary market. And if you're another decent option for this product is probably in breaks, and I would do case breaks. I think if you can get a low enough, probably team or player, Edmonton would be a great where you can get Draisaitl, you can get McDavid or Gretzky in some cases. That would probably be a good bet for Clear Cut. I don't know, Troy, any last thoughts that you have on Clear Cut?
I'm kind of offended that you didn't mention Pekka Rinne in your buying a player because you could get him for like $2 and then hit a card worth $30. No, I'm just kidding. I would, if you're going to go at this product, the case breaks is definitely an interesting play, go by the player name. I don't know if a lot of people do. I haven't seen a lot of team. Usually on eBay, they go by player, but that'd be a fun break to get into actually.
Well, there's a lot of break. Like if you look at eBay sales, and part of what made this probably a huge comparatively waste of time, so hopefully people find it valuable, is there was something like when you search for 2020 Clear Cut sales, there's something like 670 results, and the vast majority were breaks. Yeah. People that were selling breaks on eBay, so like particular teams. And I was noticing that like the top teams were going in the $150 range.
Okay.
And a master case, I think, is what, 30 boxes?
Good question. I don't know. I can look it up.
Yeah, no, it is. And I think the inner is 15. So it's probably, I don't know. It's like if you get a top team, maybe the 125 range, it would be better. But the product's awesome. So definitely give our kudos to Upper Deck on a good release there. Okay, so now we'll get into new releases. And I got to be honest, Troy, I tried hard this is probably the most blasé week for a new, and not that it's blasé in that MVP is still scheduled to come out on the 8th. So this podcast released on the 7th. So it'd be tomorrow if you're listening, day one. MVP is super noteworthy. It's not a set I love, but it's our first look at a new crop of, or at least a partial list of the new crop of rookies. So again, to me, the highlights are Matt Boldy and Marco Rossi, both from the Wild. You have Owen Power from the Buffalo and Matty Beniers in Seattle. There may be a couple other ones too that will end up standing out, but nothing's really changed as far as the information. It's still on target for the 8th, and I think, Troy, you had seen the 14th, but what I'm guessing you had is that the retail...
Is that the retail SKU?
SKUs are coming out on the 14th. It looks like a hobby is still September 8th. And there will be hobby exclusive cards there.
Yeah.
Beyond MVP, nothing's really changed. It's still, there's still the holding date at the end of the month where there's a huge list of products that I read off last week. I still feel like Credentials is next. I could be wrong. Not really much else to add at that point. The only other thing that I thought was kind of interesting from a new release perspective, and who knows what'll happen. These dates are fluid as we're definitely learning. But as of right now, Troy, 2022-23 Series 1 is scheduled for right around mid-November. So that would be the first chance to get Young Guns for the first set of 2022-23 rookies.
Yeah.
So, which will come up. I mean, that's what?
Yeah. It's going to
a month and a half away.
It'll come up fast. I can tell you that.
2 months away. Pretty boring week as far as new information on new releases. And that's all I got.
Yeah, I guess I could. All right. So I was going to jump in and say we had one little tidbit. It's someone messaged us. The cup is coming. That's all I know is the cup is coming. We were kind of talking about the cup, but is it ever coming out? We think we got a message. We think it's coming out sometime. Not sure when, but I don't think they're not cutting it or anything. So,
boy, the cup is like a more closely guarded secret than the iPhone.
Yeah, it's a
release.
Well, that's kind of cool too. I guess. I mean, that's kind of interesting. Maybe they'll just. I mean, it would be really cool if they didn't even put a checklist out and then just dropped. Like that to me is always cool. Like video game world. Sometimes publishers just put out a game without any news, without telling anyone it's coming out, or an album has that happen. And I think that's kind of cool.
Didn't Kanye do that a few times?
Sure. I think Kanye or Beyonce might. Don't get me into modern music. I'm going to get out of my zone real quick. It's
not Wham.
No.
We can talk about Wham for hours on it.
It's not Wham or 90s alternative. I'm pretty much out.
Okay. I'm going to roll us into personal pickups, and I'll start because I literally have nothing. So in my defense, Your Honor.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
I did bid on it, but
I'm pretty sure last episode you said there might be some purchases.
Well, I bid on a lot of things and I lost every single auction. So I'm kind of got a big O for
not
now.
For a lack of trying then. So you were active trying to buy.
And I think I counted before we started recording. I think I have 9 auctions that I'm currently leading.
Okay.
And so hopefully next week we'll have, I'm trying to find those last minute pre-new season hype deals.
Yeah.
And so that's probably what I'm losing is I'm trying to get a deal on a bunch of this is all kind of stuff I want to flip. But yeah, I got nothing.
So when you say you're leading, are you actually putting in like your top price, or are you just like, would you jump back in at the end and try to get in again? Or are you pretty set at, I put in my top dollar amount and then I walk away?
Troy, I can't give you my secrets.
Okay. All right.
No. That's, what I do is I put it because I'm like anyone else, right? I get super competitive and that leads you to be financially stupid. And so my strategy for really the last 6 months is find an auction, identify your top. What do you want to pay for this? At most, set that as your bid and walk away, and you win it or you don't, but not to compete at the end. I don't know. How do you?
I'm complete opposite. I will not bid until the last 6 seconds.
So you're in it to win it.
Yeah, every auction I will not bid until the end. That's just how I do it.
Okay.
I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I was trying to like you said, it's the game. It's the thrill. And it's always interesting when you kind of fat finger. I had that happen once where it was like a Pekka $50 card, and I actually put in, I don't know what I was trying to type in. I might have typed in 5,000 instead of 50. It's just like, whoops. But I won it, for like $51 then. But
is that when your cat Lemons gets emphysema?
Lemons.
Okay, so I am a big loser when it comes to hockey card purchases this week. And I know you bought one you can talk about and one you can't.
Yeah, I got two boxes of Clear Cut, and the first one is on our Instagram post. It was a Jake Gensel high gloss autograph out of 10. Really cool card. And I actually put that on eBay and sold it. Got $170 is the price I got for it.
It sold right away.
Yeah, it sold. So I probably sold it low. Maybe I put it out, I think, for $200, and I said accept best offer. And the person messaged me within, I don't know, 30 minutes maybe. So I mean, I made after taxes, my box was like $150, and then sold it for $150 or $170. After fees, I'm literally break even on that box.
Yeah, you're at break even,
which is fun.
But going on our data, you did pretty well. You're in the top 21% of our little sample. And well, there was another sale I did as I was literally going through every single Clear Cut sale. There was another one of the high gloss, and that's numbered out of 10, right? Like any other high gloss that did sell for 140. So either you did well or you set the market low, and any Jake Gensel investors can write the Hockey Card Gone Show care of Troy and tell him about ruining the market.
Well, I'll say, man, if I was a Gensel fan, it was a sweet card. It's just not my player, so I had kind of decided to sell it.
The high gloss are cool. Definitely like those. And then there's one more mystery card, right?
Mystery card. Not going to reveal it yet. The video should be going up. What do you think, tomorrow? That would be...
Yeah, we're just waiting for comps on it because we want to be as accurate as possible.
So hopefully ready. The day you listen to this podcast, when this podcast comes out, is hopefully when the video will go up. It will be soon, if it's not that day, the 7th of September.
All right, Troy. We made it. I think we did it. That is our show, everybody. Thank you for listening, continuing to support our little podcast. We continue to have record weeks, and we're growing every week, which is mind-blowing, and we're very, very appreciative of. So please, obviously, if you haven't bookmarked or is it followed or whatever on Apple or
whatever it is,
subscribed or, like and subscribe or do whatever to make sure that you get the most recent updates on new episodes as they get published. As always, follow us on TikTok or Facebook or Instagram or Twitter at Hockey Cards Gong Show. We hope you have an amazing week, and we're going to work hard over the next 6 days to find some more interesting stories and look at more great data for you. And we can't wait to see you again next week. Bye-bye.